Hello, hello. Okay, last week we talked a little bit about goals, how to set goals, how to get there quicker. And I thought, well, let me share with you a few of the ways that a few of the items that we track and to make sure that we're getting to those goals. So there's a lot of different areas that we look at, and they're going to be specific to your business. But I want to share with you some of the ratios that we are looking at and monitoring to have an idea on if you're making progress, if you're getting there closer to those goals. These are specific to the construction industry. The ratios themselves are not all specific to the construction industry, but what I'm going to share about them, what we typically see, what we want to see, that is relative to the construction industry. So you might have to tweak that a little bit depending on what your line of business is. So one of the first ratios that we look at is going to be days in AR. So the construction industry tends to take a long time to pay, depending again on what area that you're in. So this is going to tell us how long it takes for you to collect payments from your customers. So we're going to take the AR balance minus your retention, multiply that by 365 days, and then divide it by your annual revenues. And that's going to give you a number of days it's an AR. 30 to 45 days is going to be really good. You're collecting quick, you're collecting on time. What we tend to see is like 45 to 60 days, again, in the construction industry. And anything over 60, there's some concern. So we need to be looking at something. Now, there might be one customer that takes longer than 60 days. But again, this is an average. So your average should not be over 60 days. So we'd want to make sure that we're really looking at that if you find that your days in AR is getting over that 60-day mark. So on the flip side, we want to be looking at days in AP. How quickly are we paying people? Are we paying our suppliers? Are we paying our vendors? So you take that accounts payable, the trade payable specifically, and multiply that by 365 days. Then you're going to divide it by your annual cost of sales, and that's going to get your days in AP. So what we don't want to see is that your days in AR is 45 to 60 days, and your days in AP is 20 to 30 days. So that's where you're going to have some issues with cash because you're losing out on about 30 days of cash right there by not getting money very quick and paying it out a lot quicker. So the third ratio that we want to look at is months and backlog. So you're going to take your backlog revenue, and how you're going to get that is you're going to take all of the revenue that you are expected to receive based on the contracts that you have signed in your backlog. You're going to subtract out the revenue that you have already received. And that's going to give you your backlog revenue, or the revenue that you've already recognized, not necessarily received. And that's going to give you your backlog revenue. And then you're going to divide that by your average monthly revenues. And that's going to give you a months in backlog. So you're going to be able to see how many months can you sustain your current revenue. If you have 10 to 12 months of backlog, you're doing pretty good. Maybe you can just continue with your sales process, do what you're doing. If you have 3 months in backlogs, maybe you're like, oh crap, now I need to go bust my ass to go get more work. So it's really going to depend on what your months in backlog look like, and it's gonna depend on your industry. So maybe you do a lot of small projects that only last a day. Okay, your backlog might be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Maybe your projects last about a week, so your backlog might be looking at a couple months. And then if you have the big construction jobs that are taking 12 to 18 months, you kind of want that 12 to 18 month backlog in place. Okay, fourth ratio that we're going to look at is overhead to construction revenue. So we're going to take all of your overhead expenses, other also called general and administrative expenses, So all your overhead expenses and divide that by your revenue, and that's going to give you a percentage. We typically like to see your overhead percentage around that 10% mark. And again, that's going to depend on what are your costs of sales. So labor is really high in the construction industry. You have a lot of material costs. Depending on what line of work that you're in, let's say maybe you get a 25% profit margin. So if you have 10% in overhead cost, you're getting a 15% net profit. So the higher your overhead costs are, the less of a profit that you're going to be able to take home. So that's an important one to be watching. And then last that I'm going to go over is a current ratio. So you got your current assets over your current liabilities. And that's just going to measure your ability to pay those short-term debts, those debts that are less than 1 year. How quickly can you take your cash or your other current assets and pay off those short-term liabilities? So these are ratios that you can start running monthly and be watching regularly. And that's going to really help you know on certain goals if you're getting closer to those goals or not, and what areas you should be looking at and focusing on and improving. So if you found this helpful, please like, share, and comment. And thank you very much.